Yo, I just have to say, this is probably one of the best looking games from the PS3, from last generation's consoles. Holy shit. Skyrim? And I have to say, this is one of my favorite games. The whole Skyrim, the whole Oblivion franchise, one of my favorite type of games. I love these type of role-playing games. Fucking fantastic. Now on with the video. On with the video. What happens if Dillian Whyte loses against Robert Helenius? Now, I know I reported earlier that Anthony Joshua versus Kurat Pulev might be called off because of the because Kurat Pulev pulled a muscle. He sustained a injury in his muscle in his chest or something. So it might be rescheduled for November, December. And if it is rescheduled, I don't know if, because the main event for the card drift card was Anthony Joshua on October 28th. If it does get rescheduled, I would imagine that Dillian Whyte versus Robert Helenius would also get rescheduled, right? For whenever time Anthony Joshua versus Pulev takes place, right? Because Eddie Hearn was saying he really wants the Dillian Whyte to be fighting on the undercards of Anthony Joshua, right? So that means they're still gonna fight, whether they fight on the 28th or whether they fight on the undercard in the future with and the Pulev Joshua undercard. What happens if if Robert Helenius wins? First of all, I think Robert Helenius is a live underdog. I keep seeing a lot of Dillian Whyte fans just saying this is going to be easy work. This is going to be easy work for for Dillian Whyte, as if Robert Helenius is some bum and he's just going to get fucking destroyed in 6 rounds. Robert Helenius at one time was considered like a top prospect. I remember back in 2011, 2012. A lot of people were saying he might be a problem in the heavyweight division. I've always felt he was a tad overrated. I don't think he's as good as a lot of people, because a lot of people were acting like he was really good. But I also don't think he's a bum. I think he is decent. By the way, look at this. Look at this armor, dude. I look fucking... Because I'm a Sith Lord, man. I look diesel, cuz. I look dope. Anyway. A lot of people are high on Dillian Whyte. I've said this several times. I don't necessarily think he's as good as people think he is. If Robert Helenius pulls off the upset, what does that mean? First of all, that would be crazy for Robert Helenius, because that will do wonders for his career. Because if he beats Dillian Whyte on the undercard of our Anthony Joshua undercard, now what does that mean? He's gonna get the Wilder fight or the Anthony Joshua fight? Because I keep seeing Dillian Whyte saying if he beats Robert Helenius, he's gonna be guaranteed a Deontay Wilder fight. So if Robert Helenius pulls the upset, and now, he's the... if he beats him, does that mean he gets a crack at Wilder's shot, or at Dillian Whyte, or at the winner of AJ versus Kurat Pulev? Does that mean that? I think the way to beat Robert Helenius is to bring him to fight, push him back, because I've always felt that Robert Helenius was who the hell killed this person? I've always felt murder. I've always felt that Robert Helenius he lacks something called heart. Someone ambushed these dudes and killed them. I've always felt that Robert Helenius lacked heart, because when he was against Derek Chisora, he didn't know what to do, and he was just getting bullied. Like, he's one of them type of dudes that when he's under pressure and he's being pressured and pushed back, he kind of mentally capitulates and folds. That's how I feel, though, personally, when it comes to him. I feel like he also mentally capitulated against Johan Duhaupas. Johan Duhaupas was pushing him back, being very physical. I would imagine this is where this was those people's camps that were killed over there. Man, now they're dead. Okay. I would imagine that. Oh yeah, Johan Duhaupas was basically made Robert Helenius wilt, because Robert Helenius was doing decent, but then Johan Duhaupas kept bringing the fight, and he just mentally capitulated, guys. He like mentally capitulated. So I've always felt the way to beat him is just to bring the fight towards him. The problem is I don't think Dillian Whyte is that type of fighter. I don't know why do people seem to think that like Dillian Whyte is like some type of come forward pressure fighter. Dillian Whyte to me has always been like a counter puncher. Like he's always been like one of them counter type of punchers. Like a guy, I think Dillian Whyte is a guy that prefers his opponents coming towards him. Like I think he's one of them dudes. He just prefers his opponents coming towards him. And when his opponents come towards us, he could throw body shots and uppercuts, because Dillian Whyte is really good at throwing uppercuts and throwing body shots. And that's why he looks so phenomenal against Dave Allen. Dave Allen was just marching forward with ineffective pressuring, and he was just beating him up. He was just beating him up and tearing him up and shit. And the same thing happened with Derek Chisora. Derek Chisora was bringing the fight to him, and he was beating him up and tearing him up. When it comes to Robert Helenius is much taller than Dillian Whyte. He has a longer reach. So, let's say he decides to fight a tall man's fight. Let's say he's like, you know what, I'm 6'7", Dillian Whyte's 6'4". I'm gonna fight tall. I'm gonna keep it long. I'm going to force Dillian Whyte to come to me. Dillian Whyte's the best at coming forward. And I don't think he's a big puncher like people think. People claim like he's a big puncher. Dillian Whyte doesn't knock out people with one shot. He's more of a guy that knocks you out with punches and bunches, combinations. So let's say he forces Dillian Whyte to come forward, and he tries to play the tall man's fight. Dillian Whyte not being the best at cutting off the ring, not because Dillian Whyte doesn't fight like Jarrell Miller. Jarrell Miller would beat the shit out of someone like Robert Helenius, because Jarrell Miller knows how to cut the ring off. He's really good at coming forward and shit. Dillian Whyte is not that type of dude. You know what I'm saying? So let's just say that Dillian Whyte finds himself struggling trying to cut the ring off against Robert Helenius, and he's getting hit. He's taking damage. And Robert Helenius finds himself winning rounds against Dillian Whyte. It's possible. And then he loses some rounds against, and then let's say he loses like that. You get what I'm saying? So, I don't know, man. I don't know. I think Robert Helenius is being slept on. Too many Dillian Whyte fans think that Dillian Whyte is like really, really good, and like nobody could beat him. This is the same guy that that lost every single round pretty much to Anthony Joshua. This is the same guy that many people thought lost to Derek Chisora. You get what I'm saying? Derek Chisora was past his best. Who killed this dude? Derek Chisora was past his best, man. Let me throw his body down here. This guy looks like a Star Wars character, doesn't he? With his armor. Throw your dead body there so I have no witnesses. Throw him. Okay. I'm telling you, someone like Derek Chisora could beat a lot of people thought Derek Chisora won. A lot of people thought Derek Chisora